So Forest Foods was created in 2021, but it goes way back many more years than that, the planning and all that. But we basically created Forest Foods to start a brand in Kenya that meant something different. Our core focus will always be on quality. And that's not just quality in the food we produce, but also quality in the fields we operate, the people we train, the consultancy services we do. Beyond that, we wanted to create a brand that had a trusted movement attached to it, right? From a customer all the way to a client. So I think, you know, that transparency and traceability has been a big one for us since the beginning, but also to introduce a new way of managing land, especially for the small and medium acreages, which the vast majority of Kenya still operates under. And I guess equally importantly, something that attracts young people into farming again, something that's sexy. I think that's really important in where we are today globally, not just locally. And perhaps lastly, something that really has an impact on tree cover. I think that's a really important one for us here too. So yeah, we chose to use a production methodology that we've showcased here today, largely because we don't really see another mechanism that can solve so many of our ecological and social issues under one umbrella than this. So this is what we're trying to push, this is what we're trying to popularize, this is what we're trying to teach, and this is what we're also trying to teach our audience, and our audience is wider than just our clients who buy from us. It's also people who come here for training, people we can inspire, is to continue growing our story around how we can better look after our land, because ultimately we're just borrowing it from our children, and if we don't make some drastic changes, our children will inherit an even bigger disaster. So I think that's what we're all about. Yeah, so I mean, I think any really integrated farming, or any farming that goes way beyond just the conventional way of thinking, has its own set of challenges, you know, from capacity building to, you know, trial and error. I mean, a lot of stuff we practice is borrowed from other countries or other regions, and so trying to localize that and fit into the local context is a challenge. Raising money for this kind of stuff is probably our biggest challenge, just because I think the financial world hasn't quite caught up with the sort of regenerative processes yet, and so we're trapped in conventional financing systems trying to do unconventional things. Well, that's always going to be a challenge. I think the demand side of things is a challenge too, trying to educate people about how they eat, what kind of production systems they support, how they support themselves at the end of the day is a big journey, and will continue being probably part of the biggest challenges we face. I'll start with I think because we have an ambition to have such a big portfolio in terms of what we can sell, we have to continue growing our regional presence. So we have to continue working with farmers, setting up our own farms in different parts of the country so we can continue growing that portfolio, but more importantly, so that we can continue showcasing different setups for different agroecological zones. Like I think was mentioned today, you know, if a farmer from the drylands comes here to Limuru, it's not the best place to show them what's possible in the drylands. If they can't think beyond the theories that we're teaching and have to see it practically, then we have to also have dryland demonstrations, for an example, coastal ones. Right now we're in the highland demonstration zone, so anyone coming from the highlands can relate to this, but people coming from other places might not be able to. So that's something we want to continue striving for, is having different farms in different parts of the country. Yeah, on the composting, so our newest line of business is you know, the sort of regen inputs, starting with a really high quality compost and a really high quality combination of biology that we can provide to others in the space wanting to reintroduce or bring or colonize rather their fields with the right type of biology. Value addition is another space that we've ventured into in the last sort of year and a half. That's something we want to grow. It's quite tough to stay in primary production. It's often more financially safe to be venturing into value addition too. So that's something we're actively seeking. And then, yeah, growing our consultancy and training arm, I think, is another big one. I think the more people that have access to what we've learned and the mistakes we've made, the more this can grow at a quicker pace. And I think that's really important, right? I think the biggest lesson probably is, if you're going against the grain as such, you got to be really determined not to give up, because every day is a challenge in many ways. But I think you've got to have a lot of strong hope, and you've got to really push yourself and the others around you to not give up, because it's very easy to give up in this space. Because it's not easy, and it's also full of its own challenges. So I think that's a big one. I think another one is probably around not trying to do too much too quickly, because then you start dividing your attention in too many places. And then probably the last one is on financing. I think it's extremely difficult to finance these sort of things, and I think the biggest lesson I've probably learned on that is, like, unfortunately, you can't really do much without the right capital. And so trying to find the right capital that fits your operation is probably the biggest thing that I would want people to pay attention to. We need to figure out mechanisms that allow this sort of stuff to go mainstream. Otherwise, it's always going to remain niche, you know? Okay, so yeah, my name is Sven Verwiel. I'm one of the co-founders and also the CEO of Forest Foods, born and raised here in Kenya. I think if people were to walk away and remember Forest Foods, I would want them to remember that nature is extremely intelligent, far more than we are, and we are really wasting a lot of our time not learning from it. So let's continue learning from it. It's probably our biggest asset. Thank you.
Thank you.